Don't read the description until you read it. He's pre-reading.
Anyone want to check? Christian, you want to check Facebook? Ravi, you want to check YouTube?
I don't have a way to get on Facebook, but I
Okay.
can check YouTube. If you know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? Where is
Just put bad tacos.
Yeah, there we go.
We still haven't been able to change our name on YouTube to Bad Tacos Media.
Really?
Yep, because it's tied into our Google account, and every time I try to do it through like the Google, it just says error.
Fun. Are you ready? Because we're burning precious.
Do you want me to check audio on here?
Yeah, if you want to check it real quick. There you go. That's good.
Cool.
All right, whenever you're ready, Mr. Host.
The intro. Hello and welcome to another episode of Was It Good, where we ask the only question worth asking in life. What time is it? Just kidding. Was it good? I'm your host, Ravi, and I'm joined by my two brothers, Christian and Arjuna. Guys, we have a lot to talk about today with Spike Lee's new flick on Netflix, Da 5 Bloods, Dave Chappelle's new comedy special, 8 minutes and 46 seconds, and a bunch of news including Christian's future favorite video game, Star Wars Squadrons. Oh, and I guess a bunch of movies are getting delayed, which is so shocking, said the ghost of sarcasm.
Did you
What an intro.
Did you ad-lib that Ghost of Sarcasm, or was that in the...
No, that's in the description.
Oh, I thought you ad-libbed it a little. thought that
I never ad
No,
these.
your delivery was the best.
Oh,
I've
thank
ever
you.
heard. You
Actually-
paused where you needed to.
I can read.
You delivered that last line like it was ad-libbed
yes.
and not written.
Yeah, it was
You're
actually
getting
pretty
better.
good. That was pretty
He's
good.
getting better.
It's almost like you're a writer and you know how I talk.
Yeah. As
Could
we
be
do
a
this,
thing.
We could, we get
Could
better.
be a thing. Could be a thing that you do.
Are you a writer?
Ah.
He's something.
Yeah,
Aren't we-
yeah.
Aren't we all something?
He's not the writer we need. He's the writer we deserve.
Also the bargain.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. I get paid nothing, so you get what you pay for.
Exactly.
You get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir.
Oh, my God.
Anyway, we're not talking about Christian. We're talking about Spike Lee's new film, Da 5 Bloods. A film that, correct me if I'm wrong, was originally slated to come out during this time period.
Yes.
Regardless of all of the current events happening in the world with Black Lives Matters, the George Floyd's protests, the changes that we're looking for in the world, an interesting film to come out. I guess, what did you guys think? Did you look at this film a little bit differently because of what's happening now? I mean, it's probably almost impossible not to go into this and be like, oh, I see the correlation to this, and this. Did you go into this and say, hey, this seems really similar to Triple Frontier, Christian's favorite movie of all effing
No,
time?
that's not true.
Yes, it is. You've
My favorite-
responded. You've said that so many
I
times.
said my favorite movie is Interstellar. I said I like Triple Frontier. I never said it's my favorite movie of all time. I just defended. But go
Go
ahead.
ahead. No,
Jonah.
you go ahead.
But I will say this.
Ow, you hurt my ears.
I know. That was well timed. Yes, it was Triple Frontier-esque in structure, not
Big time.
not content. And yes,
It's like Netflix has a formula.
yeah. I mean, Triple Frontier, Extraction, Da 5 Bloods. I think there's, is it a producer? Is it a showrunner? Or no, it's not showrunner, but is there somebody on the set of these movies
Yes,
who are making them
Netflix.
the same?
It's a robot.
It's like a person. It's a
Netflix.
shadowy figure. Anyways, and yeah, how can you not watch this movie without the lens of what's currently going on? It was interesting because the first half, you said it best, feels sort of like a little bit like a student documentary. Some parts of it.
No, I said a glorified student film.
Even better. Yes, you're right. Student film. And I thought that actually kind of worked for it, at least the first half. I liked getting the photos and sort of like the history lesson. At first, I wasn't sure if I liked
It's
it.
also very.
I did
I
like
mean, if you've seen Spike Lee movies, I mean, I think everyone here's seen Black Klansman.
Yep.
Correct.
Yeah.
I mean, Black Klansman had the very similar opening where it takes historical footage and starts off with the historical context and then brings you in. They show some real life imagery and real life situations. Even that famous at the very end of the movie, the famous Spike Lee shot where it's the front of camera and they're moving, without like that's in every Spike Lee movie, right? That's in Black Klansman. That's in help me out, the Clive Owen Denzel movie, The Bank
Inside Man.
Inside Job.
Inside Job.
Inside Job, right?
I love
No,
that
Inside
mo-
Man.
Inside Job.
Either
Oh, yeah,
way,
one of
I
those.
love that film. Not just because of like its implications on society, blah blah.
Sure.
I love the soundtrack.
Great.
The soundtrack is fabulous.
Yes.
Wait, which one? Inside Man?
Yeah,
Oh.
because they use a lot of like Bollywood music in it.
The very opening is
It's
just that Bollywood
And it's
song.
kind of like, wait, what's
that
going
Chaya
on?
Chaya.
Wait, I have not seen that movie in a long time. I
Oh,
don't
you
remember
need
that.
to. It's a great like if you like bank heist type movies, or, like
Yeah.
heist. Like it's the
heist.
Great.
It's the heist.
yeah,
movie, in
it's
my
a great film.
Wow.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I actually thought that worked. But what I found the most interesting, especially for the first half of the movie, is when they go back to their enlisting days, but back in the set, back when
The flashbacks.
the flashbacks,
Yes.
right? And what I found fascinating about those, because they were definitely jarring. Like you saw the aspect ratio kind of change, which has become very popular in Hollywood and movies and TV shows. Westworld does it all the time. But what I found fascinating, there was a few choices, right? The way they shot it was almost like, and I think they reference it in the movie, right? Like, oh, you see all these things like Walker, Texas Ranger, Chuck Norris, and like Vietnam, and these glorified like white people. They almost shot it like it was a movie from the 70s or 80s, right? Where it's like this glorified, the music changed, the way it was shot.
Even the acting.
Do you remember?
Yeah.
Do you remember the movie Tropic Thunder?
Yeah.
Of course.
So Tropic Thunder like did a lot of that same idea of like the glorified and then adding in like the air quote real world, and I think this movie did the exact same type of style, and then obviously just simple aspect ratio and then color grading. There was also tons of references to like Apocalypse Now, which is like the quintessential like Vietnam movie.
I think Spike Lee has talked in the past. I might be wrong about this, but he's talked about Apocalypse Now and that being an influence on his filmmaking. But the other interesting thing I found about those flashbacks is they used the same actors and they didn't de-age them in the past, right? They were the same age. And the only time you see de-aging is like at the very end of the movie where they show the still shot.
It's a Photoshop.
It's a Photoshop, right? I thought that was that was an interesting choice that really stuck with me throughout the movie and kind of told the story of like where these guys are.
So I have a theory on that. The flashbacks are pretty much done, I think, through the perspective of Paul, who's kind of the pseudo main character of this whole thing. I don't know about you guys, but when I remember something, I don't usually remember it as myself in that age, right? It's a little bit different when you remember like when you're a little kid and you're running around with a pencil and you stab it through your hand. Yeah, I'll remember that as like a little 6-year-old.
Yeah.
I can't remember myself as like a full adult, but like myself in college, right? That's 10 years ago now.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily picture myself remembering certain events as I was then.
Yeah, for sure.
Which like then I had way longer hair, no beard for the most part. A lot skinnier. At one point, I had braces, but I never remember that type of stuff. I remember the situation. So I'm wondering if they did it kind of in that scenario because Paul would remember those events through his eyes, his perspective. He's not going to necessarily remember his friends also of that age. And it's the same thing when I remember like what we all did in college. I don't remember you guys how you looked in college then. I remember how you guys look now.
Right, you imagine Krishna is bald, but he wasn't bald.
He wasn't bald in
when
college.
he was in college, or even when he visited you in college.
Yeah.
So
He was also taller.
Those are great.
What?
Great point.
Have I shrunk?
Might have.
Motherfucker.
So yeah, I think that aspect is probably one of the more interesting. Is like
It's fascinating.
it's a big play on what memory is, and like obviously big spoiler here. Like Paul obviously killed Norm, Chadwick Boseman,
accidentally. Yeah.
the King of Wakanda.
He killed a Black Panther, man. What the fuck?
That's a dick move.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
mean,
it
it was
wa-
a mistake, right?
It was an accident. He
Yeah.
did the wide spray and it clipped him.
Actually, we have to question that though. Was it an
Right,
accident?
because
Yeah,
it is
it's
memory.
not-
It is memory.
It's memory, and it's a little convenient that Chadwick comes back and
Forgives him at the very end of his life.
Well,
I
it's
mean,
not Chadwick. It's his own.
It's himself.
Yeah.
Of course. But it just makes you wonder. You're just like, it probably happened that way, but did it? You never really know. What I really liked about the movie is that, to me, if you look at it from the macro level, it's like you're taking the PTSD of this group of people, the soldiers, and you're putting them in a country which is also suffering from PTSD of the war.
Yep.
And now you're having these two elements clash. And I think just about every decision that they made is through that lens of PTSD. You hit the nail on the head, memory. Memory and PTSD are inextricably linked. You also hit the other nail on the head, is that when you remember things, you only remember them from the present moment.
Yep.
Which then shades everything, past, present, and future.
Well, it also changed your perspective too.
Yeah.
Like for example, this is terrible, but whatever. How I remember Star Wars,
Yeah.
right? When I was a kid, to now having seen all this new crap of Star Wars, has warped my memory a little bit of those feelings and blah 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 of Star Wars. Granted, I'm not comparing Star Wars and PTSD,
Yeah.
but it's the example I'm going.
You're what you're doing. That you're just explaining memory.
Yeah.
And memory is already a very fragile, malleable thing. You can change it. When you add in a traumatic series of events, that's PTSD. That's you're not really sure what's real, at that point. So, yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
That's the movie. No, Delroy Lindo Oscar nomination. What do we think?
Yes.
And real quick, just to kind of throw the news in there as well, it was announced today, the taping of this podcast, the 2021 Oscars
We're delayed.
were delayed by 2 months.
Oh.
For two reasons. Well, one reason.
Oh, yeah.
COVID.
Right.
Movies being delayed.
Yeah.
People not being able to go about. Production all
That's why
wacky.
this movie always destined for Netflix, or was it originally going to be theatrically released?
I'm sure there's gonna be a theatrical release.
This does feel
Like Spike Lee, I don't think would.
I
I
thought
don't think a.
I thought Netflix was the one. Also, wasn't just using the distribution platform, but they were also pumping money behind production of it as well. So I
Oh,
think it was always
interesting.
destined for a Netflix.
Oh, okay. Not theatrical.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Huh.
I mean, it's also Spike Lee's own production company that also assisted too. So
Okay. Well, interesting. But I think he should definitely get nominated. I thought his performance, like, really informed what the movie was about.
yeah,
I think you understand all of the creative choices when you look at Delroy Lindo's performance. You're like, oh, because of his performance, you can understand why they made certain choices, which are you've said it, they're jarring, they're confusing. And I noticed that on the second time when you were watching earlier today, that like there's like repeats of cuts.
yep.
And
the
it's
hugs. So
the
specifically
hugs, the dapping,
yeah.
But
it's-
there
I
was
like.
something specific about the hugs that I picked up after the millionth time of seeing it and being like, is this just bad editing or what?
No.
It was they changed the perspective.
yeah.
Which I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
Honestly, I really liked a lot of the stylistic choices. Like I loved the kind of like unnatural cuts. Like even specifically with Lindo's character Paul. Like especially when he's hugging Chadwick Boseman, it just quickly cuts to him like digging a ravine all of a sudden, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, "What? Did I miss something?" But it's like, no, because
This is all in his head.
yeah, you're really getting into the head of a PTSD victim.
Yeah.
And I think they did a really good job with that. And I kind of like I've just read now this was always Netflix bankrolled this. It was announced last year in February that they were going to distribute. But
Oh, okay.
I almost feel like this is a movie that would have really benefited from seeing on the big screen, right? Just seeing the different aspect ratios, seeing a lot of those visual cues that I think went along with this type of movie.
I'm going to disagree. I think you, at the very least, do it both ways, but it always needs to be on the Netflix platform. And the
Oh, yeah.
reason I say that is because the distribution is just so much larger and more worldwide.
Sure.
And I think it's important that this is seen more than just by like an American audience.
Yeah.
Because the things that they're talking about is not just related clearly to this country. Like this shit is happening everywhere, unfortunately. One last thing real quick about Delroy Lindo. While his performance was great in this, it still doesn't top his best performance ever, which is in the 2003 greatest film ever,
Oh, no.
The Core,
Oh god.
He was in
I
The
knew
where
I
he
knew
plays
I
the
rec-
doctor who saves
Yeah.
all of fucking
He's
mankind.
Great. He's great in The Core.
I need a. That's another movie.
Oh, it's such a good
Alright,
movie.
alright,
He's
so
such a great character in that too.
Ravi loves the movie so much. I'm pretty sure. Correct me if I'm wrong. You had the paperback version of The Core.
I did. I
and
had
you
the book.
read it.
I had the book.
And you read.
Whoa,
I
right.
read
You
that
the
book. It was so good.
We've got
I want
The
that to
Core.
happen in real life.
So he's a British actor. He's
Yes.
He's not an American actor. He's a British dude.
And you know
which
what?
makes sense.
Unfortunately, this is the lens that we're forced to view the world. Anytime a British man can come in and play an American character with that much shit going
Real
on
quick.
and do it that believably,
quick.
I had no idea it was
Hold on
English.
to add more like clarity to this. He
Winner.
played an American MAGA supporter.
Yes.
What did you guys think of that choice to have his character and really involve Trump and those politics and be a Trump supporter?
It
I
nails
thought
it.
I thought it was interesting.
I think it's a great thing to do because movies are supposed to be a representation of real life. And unfortunately, like, I don't know, let's say the world fixes itself and 20, 30 years goes by. We'll have news clippings. We'll have video clips of what's happening in present day. But, you know, one of the things that's always repeatable and people go back and look at are films or is fiction.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we need to have some of these paper or these breadcrumbs in actual, like, cinema and everything so that the people of the future can be like, wait, yeah, the world had a fucking idiot as the president and there were dumb people that followed him.
Right, and it's
Yeah.
interesting that they had the character with mental health issues be the Trump supporter, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
There's a
I
lot
thought-
of discussion around that, obviously, in today's news.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting because I'm like, Spike Lee clearly doesn't like Trump, so to make his viewpoint character for the whole movie a Trump supporter must have been a very challenging thing because he's got to write certain scenes from this movie from his perspective, and he nailed it, obviously, right? Both the writing and the performance. So to be able to do that, put aside your own bias behind Trump, and then write and then also convey that support for that man, I think is that is quite the feat. That's quite the feat.
Yeah.
Is it or is it? I mean, is it difficult to be like, oh, how do you like play someone who would follow someone this clownish in a film?
You play him crazy.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
But that's the thing. I think, I mean, I think if you look at actual Trump supporters, even though Paul is a character who's suffering from PTSD and has some mental instability, they captured a lot of the points that many of the Trump supporters do make, and it is a real viewpoint, unfortunately. You know, and I think Spike Lee making his character be the one, you know, Paul be the one to be the Trump supporter is a critique on Trump supporters, right? You know,
That's true.
it's commentary on, like, well, potentially, like, to be a Trump supporter, not everything is
Everything is clicking up
connected
here. Yeah.
up top.
I'm last thing on Delroy, his monologue where he's walking toward the camera.
He's looking at it.
He's looking at it,
Yep.
and that speech. There's only one other scene that I think really captures an actor goes beyond like who they are, and that's when Christian Bale is playing Dick Cheney. Basically, does the same thing at the very end of the Cheney movie,
Yeah.
where he's like
he
looking
breaks
at the
fourth
camera.
wall.
And to me,
Yeah.
when I watched that, I found that like slightly terrifying because it felt like Cheney talking to us.
Yep.
Right. Like I don't know how Christian Bale did it. He did it, and this is the only other movie where I've had that same sort of visceral reaction. I'm like, Delroy doesn't even exist. He went all the way, and I
Into
was
that
like,
character.
this man, this is a real man who suffered PTSD in the Vietnam War, and he's talking to us directly.
Yeah.
Amazing performance. He should at the very least be
Yeah,
nominated.
it's a travesty if he doesn't.
Yeah,
nominated.
absolute fucking horseshit. if he
Well, we
doesn't.
have less than a year to find out.
Start the timer.
Speaking, back it up a second. I think we want to ask that question.
Yeah, sure. Let's
Oh
do
yeah,
it.
I think
Okay.
so.
Do you guys like this T-shirt that I'm wearing?
Yes.
No.
Okay. Arjuna, was Defy Bloods good?
Yes, it was good, and I would put it on my one of my top movies of 2020.
Wow. Okay.
For sure.
You have a list. You do have a list.
I do. I have a list. I mean,
How
granted,
many movies have come out this
there's
year
been about
so
like
far?
20. I've seen about 22 movies that were released in 2020,
That's insane.
but honestly, like looking at the list, like it's not a strong.
I can't
set of
remember
movies.
19 of them.
You probably haven't seen most of them because they just weren't that
Interesting.
interesting, to be honest.
And also, there are probably more films that we don't. Arjuna's more. Arjuna's a little bit more eclectic in his taste.
Yeah, like Trolls the World Tour. I'm sure he saw that.
very eclectic taste he has.
I mean,
but,
it was an entertaining movie.
I
Oh
knew
my
you
God.
saw that.
I
But
saw
he
it
likes
at the drive-in.
he likes like dramas and rom-coms and
There's nothing wrong with a good rom-com.
and regular comedies and regular
There's nothing wrong with a good
romances.
comedy.
There
You
it
know,
is.
I sometimes
just kidding.
I've sometimes wondered, are we really doing this podcast for other people? Are we doing it because at some point we will forget what happened in the year or last year, and we can just easily go through our catalog and be like, oh, yeah, that movie came out. That was my thought process on it.
Wow. So what we're doing is creating a catalog for the
ourselves.
for the post-apocalyptic world where the internet dies.
Well, if the internet dies, all of our podcasts are gone. So I don't think we backed them up on any
Back them up.
physical
I
media.
have,
local-
I have all the copies.
Local hard
what?
drive.
Cassette?
No, on a hard drive.
You
Oh
should
my
put them on a
God.
cassette.
Oh my God.
Burn them onto a record. Christian, was The Five Bloods good?
Yes, it was. It's it's a complicated movie. And while watching, I wasn't even sure if I liked the movie, but at the end, I think the performances, some of the artistic direction, also the movie. We didn't even talk about this, but the movie has like laugh out loud moments, which I thought was
The cast was great chemistry.
Oh, my
great
God.
chemistry between the guys.
the Wire alum. Bravo. I mean,
The-
Delroy obviously is the scene stealer, but Clay Davis and Lester Freeman and Clay Davis, incredible.
Also, the actor that plays Paul's son, I've seen him in a couple of things. He was in The Last Black Man. He was in the movie The Last Black Man in San Francisco. He was really good in that. And then there's another movie I saw recently that he was in. He's like an up and coming actor. I thought he did a really good job in this movie too.
Wait, which one is that?
He plays Paul's son.
Oh yeah, he was great.
Yeah, he's just kind of like like I just love like even the like part where he like introduces him to the other Bloods and he's just kind of like sitting there with like his hat and he's got like a little cup of orange juice and he's just like.
Yeah. I thought that he was great. he might have been him and the guide were my favorite characters. The son and the guide.
Because they were innocent.
They were innocent.
They were pure and innocent.
and they were normal.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, there's some normal in this
Yep.
world. There they are. And unfortunately, they were like bystanders almost. But
Yeah.
Ravi, was The Five Bloods good?
Similar to what you had said, the beginning was definitely a little bit difficult to get into it. I think on a rewatch, I'll be all in.
Yeah.
This time I was definitely kind of sitting there a little bit uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I definitely went into this film thinking it was just going to be a bunch of like prejudice against the black community. I actually didn't, because I had not watched any trailers. I had no idea what it was. And then everyone's like, oh, everyone needs to go watch The Five Bloods. It relates hardcore to what's happening with the Black Lives Matter movement. So it's kind of like, oh, am I going to just watch a movie that's just going to
Am I just going to
imitate
be
real?
watching the news?
Yeah, exactly.
Am I
So
just
it's kind of
watching
like,
the news? Yeah.
so I was sitting there for the most part, like on the edge of my seat, kind of uncomfortable. But overall, it's a great movie, great cinematography. Like I said, I love how they dealt with flashbacks. It's very unique in terms of like what Hollywood does with flashbacks. They typically want to use two sets of actors because you get more names in there. So I thought this was a great way to kind of not have to do that, and then also like visually show what memory is, which is great. So
Very nice.
So is that a yes?
yes. Sorry.
So one interesting thing I did read about this, Netflix pushed or asked Spike Lee to use their de-aging technology that they use for movies like The Irishman, right? Where they de-aged De Niro and Al Pacino and Joe Pesci for the entire movie for those flashback scenes, and he's like, nope, I want to do it this way, and they let him do it. To be fair,
Wow.
That's awesome.
yeah.
There you
Because the thing with that de-aging stuff is it's creepy, and I hate it.
go. Yeah,
Rogue
it's
One.
not, it's not it's not natural.
What they
It's
did with
not.
Moffat and Princess Leia,
That's
What-
not even de-aging.
Do-
That's
do-
just straight up like
creepy.
Well, do you guys remember
Uh,
when we watched what? We rewatched Rogue One like 2 months ago, a month
Yeah,
ago?
yeah.
And I remember when we watched it and I saw it like this is like the first time I've seen it since the year the movie came out. I'm like, wow, it looks so bad.
yeah. It's not
It
even
looks so bad. It
it's
just
not even
looks
it's not
bad.
even de-aging. It's like imposters.
Y-
Like
it
those
just-
actors aren't even alive.
Just creepy.
It
And
looks like a
Yeah.
video game render. Honestly,
Yeah,
it
it
really
does.
does.
I say,
Yeah.
I don't know, like with the stuff with the stuff with Carrie Fisher, I kind of understand why it would make sense. But like with the actor that played, Moffat,
Yeah.
just recast it at this point. I think
Yeah.
everybody's gonna be like, okay, we get it.
Yeah.
It's just confusing when you like recast other characters. You know what I'm saying? Like you recast Mon Mothma,
Yeah.
you recast Han Solo for a whole movie. Like what's wrong with just?
Anyway,
it doesn't make
we're
sense.
gonna get into more Star Wars stuff at the end, but The Five Bloods did talk a lot about PTSD. And a couple of years ago, or about 10 years, right, Christian, prior to the start of the Vietnam War, there was treatments in place to combat PTSD through a drug known as LSD.
Yes.
Recently, someone on this podcast
What?
didn't necessarily do that, but had an experience similar to that. I can say that legally and not get anyone in trouble.
Yeah.
He basically drank a whole gallon of milk. Same effect.
Same effect. Yeah.
Same effect. So
exactly the same.
Krisher was on a milk trip.
Yeah, I was on a milk trip. A trip to the store to get milk.
Yes.
Ooh, wow.
What
that's-
happened, Krisher?
That works on
Yeah,
so
what
many
happened
levels.
on the trip to the store? To get milk?
Wow. You want this
What store
experience?
was it? Was
Oh
it
my
Ralph's?
God.
Was it Pavilions?
Well, first of all,
CVS?
the milk, as we're gonna call
1%?
it. Uh,
Yo, was it 1%, 2% almond milk?
God, it was all of the milks, guys. Okay, it was every milk, and then you become the milk, and then you realize there is no milk. Yeah. Well, the experience was very interesting. Oh God, it's deconstruction. Okay, so basically, you don't know who you are. It is temporary insanity. Insanity because you forget everything that you know about everything.
Is that
including
is that the
yourself.
definition of insanity?
I don't know, but it should be. I don't know. I think insanity might be. It's a bunch of things. It can be like believing things that aren't real, quote unquote. Yeah, probably temporary amnesia, permanent amnesia. Like, who knows, right? So it was interesting. The first couple hours were disorienting because you have to. I spent the first couple hours just sort of getting used to this new framework.
Right, like which milk you want to go get.
Yeah,
which
yeah.
store you want to go to.
But then you forget that you even took milk. Or no, you remember that you took milk, but you have to keep reminding yourself because you're not sure what's the effect the milk is having on you.
Okay.
And then you spend the time after that being like, man, I really need to just pee out this milk, right? It's stuck inside of me. My stomach is cold. In fact, the milk might be bad. The milk might be bad. In fact, I might
Wait,
have...
did that cross your mind when you were on this
Yes.
milk trip?
Yeah, on the milk trip.
And it didn't freak you out?
No, it didn't because I was like, well, you just gotta let your body do its thing at that point, right?
Wow.
So there's a lot of like just surrendering, and then all of a sudden you forget to surrender, and then you're like fighting it, and then you surrender, and then you're fighting it. It's just a lot of in and out epiphanies, and then forgetting them, and then remembering them. It's a terrifying experience. I actually cannot recommend it to anyone. To be quite clear,
So you're
but
saying it was not good?
it was good. When you look at the entire journey, the journey was good, but the trip
To the milk store.
part
was bad.
of the trip to the milk store was bad.
Got it.
The ingesting of the milk was good. Writing out the milk poisoning, bad.
Gotcha.
Looking at what the milk represented, good. So it's just. But anyway, to bring it back though to the Five Bloods. While I was on this trip of.
Wait, you did not watch Defy Blood while
No,
on the
no,
trip?
no.
Oh my
God.
God.
That would.
He had 3 glasses of Glenfiddich while he watched The Five Bloods, right?
Yes, I did have Glenfiddich while I was watching that.
And
That was the
then,
night
and then I came home and Christian was like, you know when Christian is like drunk,
Yes.
or you know
He
how
tries
is?
to
I
use
talk too
Google
much.
Maps to order an Uber.
Yeah.
I didn't do that this time.
He was just like grinning a lot. And he's like, are you gonna watch it now? I really want to watch the movie again.
Yeah.
This is like 10:30 at night. It's a 2.5-hour movie. I'm like, I'm gonna go to bed.
Actually, though, it's great that you bring up The Five Bloods. The Five Bloods and also The Last Samurai. Those are the movies that you least want to watch when you're suffering from milk, right? 2 movies that I can highly recommend when you're trying to forget or you come back to normal. When you want to get back to normal from your milk trip.
Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared. 1 through 6.
No, that might be worse than those other 2. It's Shrek 2 and Hitch.
Okay,
I cannot stress this
hold
enough.
on.
2
We
perfect
have to
movies.
go back. How did you get to Shrek 2?
Oh, I looked up a list of movies on Reddit to look at when you're tripping
On milk.
on milk.
Interesting.
Yes.
Did you actually watch these movies?
I watched Shrek 2. It was number 2 on the list. Number 1 was Fantasia, and I was like, I want to watch that. Shrek 2, I was like, that's perfect because I don't remember Shrek 2 at all. And Shrek 2 is a great metaphor. In fact, I'm convinced that the creators of Shrek 2 meant it to be sort of a great representation of what an acid trip is. Shrek goes from being an ogre to a human back to an ogre. If that isn't the greatest metaphor for what LSD does to you, I don't know what is. I
You
mean,
mean milk?
LSD and milk.
No, they're very different things.
Very
we don't
different.
condone LSD usage on this podcast.
Milk drinking.
We don't
Drinking
condone
milk is
Milk
anything.
is fine. And then the other one's Hitch.
Hitch,
And
yeah,
this was
Hitch-
also on
Hitch
that
is
list. So
No, Hitch was not on the list. I was just looking for another movie, and I was like, I need something really stupid right
which
now.
one's Hitch again? Is that the
Hitch
Will
is
Smith?
Will Smith and Kevin James and
Oh,
Will
great
Smith.
cast.
Will Smith.
Eva
Oh, it's
Mendes?
incredible.
Oh,
Eva
yeah.
Mendes. He is a dating coach.
Yes.
Who trains him up. The reason that movie is also works as well. Part of the reason I went on this milk trip was to become a better writer. And Hitch is great because every scene it works to reframe whichever character is in that scene. The whole movie is subverting expectation after expectation after expectation.
Star Wars?
And that also represents a milk trip. Actually, it's funny you bring up Star Wars. Somebody pointed out if milk is to LSD what orange juice is to mushrooms, then orange juice equals Lord of the Rings, and milk equals Star Wars. And I think that's a good way. It's not perfect, but it's a good way to sort of
Confused by
represent
all of these-
Anyway,
all
my
these
biggest
beverages.
question is: did you look up this list while you were drinking the milk, or is this before?
no.
drinking the-
While I was drinking the milk, yeah,
How did you use a laptop while you?
I didn't. I used my phone.
How?
Because so after
How did you not get stuck in it?
Well, so it was after about 8 hours.
Okay.
So the first
okay.
2 hours, you're not capable of anything
Yes.
except just going through whatever's
Hey, now
happening.
your mother would say you're capable of great things. at all
Yeah,
times.
I mean, it's not for this episode. I would love to try and put into words what the first 2 hours are like, but it's not for right now. But it's to bring it back to the Five Bloods, which I think we're trying to do for half an hour now. It's interesting that it was banned about, in the 60s. I believe it was banned in the 60s. And I think the Vietnam War takes place the end of the 60s, beginning of the 70s, middle of the 70s. I'm actually not entirely sure. But I don't think that's a coincidence because what milk does is it takes apart your ego and it makes you less susceptible to just live your life kind of blindly. So I'm of the thought that if LSD had been legal, the Vietnam War never happened. And it's no coincidence either that LSD has been used and they're actually researching this right now, I believe, at Harvard and Johns Hopkins, treatment therapies, things like microdosing and just how LSD can be used to treat depression and PTSD. So it was very interesting that I watched The Five Bloods, and then, was it the next day? Yeah, the next day. Honestly, the time is it's a whole different
I think
thing.
it was 2 days later.
2 days? Yeah, time. And then I had this experience with the milk. I think that the two kind of go hand in hand, at least for me this weekend.
Have you ever thought that maybe you're still experiencing the milk?
I mean, that's a whole different thing, sir. It's a whole
All right, we're
different
not
thing.
we're not spending.
Yeah.
This is not the Joe Rogan podcast, so we're
yeah,
gonna move on from
yeah.
talking about milk here. Let's shift into a little bit of
Turbo?
Not a little bit. Not a little bit. A serious matter here. Recently, Dave Chappelle put out a YouTube video titled 8 minutes and 46 seconds. That is an important time frame because that is unfortunately and sadly how long George Floyd was kneed on. And Dave Chappelle, who has been known primarily as a comedian for the Chappelle Show, then he went a little crazy, then he came back, then he
He did
wrote
go
some
crazy.
stuff, and he's last couple of years he's done an interesting new kind of slew of stand-up comedy shows where they're not just straight up comedy per se. It's kind of comedy within the real world and making you realize I probably should not be laughing at this, and he actually makes a bunch of fairly really good points. And his new special, or I wouldn't even call it special because he put it on YouTube.
It's just impromptu.
An impromptu, he just put it out because he felt very, like many of us do, he felt very passionate about this and he needs to speak up. What did you guys think?
I mean, it's Dave Chappelle 2.0 at his best.
I
think
would call
he's-
this Dave Chappelle at 3.0.
Maybe, yeah, maybe. I mean, for me, Chappelle exists in two realms, like the straight up, comedy,
Show.
trying to make it Chappelle Show, the precursor to Key and Peele, et cetera, and then the Chappelle that came back from, was it Africa that he spent a couple months or
Africa.
years,
Africa.
losing his mind, and then trying to put himself back together. Well, I mean, in his own words, right? It's him at his very best because it's not comedy, it's commentary with some comedy. And if his job, if an entertainer's job is to simply stand in front of a stage and be captivating and keep your attention. He's at his very best right now. Better than he was when he was just doing straight up stand up comedy. Better than he was when he was doing
The
Chappelle Show. So as a professional, he's at his very best right now. And unfortunately, events have given him the platform to be effective and to be his best. He'll be the first one to tell you he doesn't want to go up and do that shit. He doesn't want to go up and have to be talking about that.
But he's been talking. I mean, and to the point of the special, he mentions it multiple times. Like he's been talking like this isn't anything new, which is probably why it's not Dave Chappelle 3.0 because he has been mentioned. Like he recaps all of it, right? And really in those 27 minutes of the special, of just all the senseless murders that have happened to black people in this country. And it's powerful, right? Like I think like you just said, Christian, like he is a captivating public speaker, and that's what he is. Like this isn't a stand-up, like that's not comedy. It's a public figure doing 27 minutes of public speaking to people, and yeah, there his typical jokes. Throw a couple of his jokes thrown in there about like pardon my language, but like pussy smelling, right? Like that's one of the one of the things that he says, right?
Why is he talking about cats like that, man?
But and that's kind of what I love about Chappelle, right? He is
authentic.
He's authentic, and I think he even mentions it, right? Like people coming after him and saying like, Dave Chappelle needs to say something, and he's so passionate, he's so emotional, without breaking down, but still being Dave Chappelle, right? Being that guy of just being able to share and articulate what he's feeling and what many people are feeling right now.
Yeah, what many people are going through.
Yeah, and to kind of relate to Five Bloods, like I think Spike Lee in a lot of his movies, even going back to some of his earlier ones, like Do the Right Thing, right? I think that came out in the 80s or the 90s. One of Spike Lee's first movies. It's about a block, I believe, in New York, and Spike Lee is the main character, and it's just about black people living in America, and the movie culminates with someone on the street being killed by a police officer, and then them rioting, like his character, rioting at the end, doing the right thing. And so Spike Lee is always, much like Dave Chappelle, specifically Dave Chappelle 2.0, always had this type of message. And I think Spike Lee's, the movie was pre-planned before everything happened, but it's very relevant. And I think kind of the same thing with Chappelle. Like, yes, he specifically talks about George Floyd and everything going on, but pull up any of the Netflix specials he's done over the last 5 years, and you're going to find
something
similar content.
Yep.
So I for both of these guys, I commend them for continuing to do what they've always done, honestly, and not halting the conversation and continuing to have it. And I'm glad people are talking about it more, like us. Like we're talking. Like I don't think a year ago, if these had come out, we necessarily would have talked about these in the same way.
Right.
But we are now. That's it.
Nice. Well done. Well articulated. You're good with the words.
Thank you.
I mean, did you watch it?
I watched most of it.
Okay. What do you think?
I like, similar to what Arjuna said, he speaks really well. He is a public speaker. I think the thing that is interesting, and I've heard this from a couple of different people, is like there's two things that are or a couple of things. I'll just list them all out. Number one is like, and Chappelle said, it's like, this isn't new.
Yeah.
Like, he's not coming out there saying something groundbreaking that has not happened 2 months ago, 3 months ago, 4 months ago, 5 months ago, 6 months ago. Like, I don't have to give time jumps. I can just go month by month, and it's happened, which is frustrating and sad for our country. I think the other thing that has been interesting is Josiah Johnson, King Josiah 54 on Twitter, said this in one of our this other show that I produce, is that across the board you have these people are expecting somebody to do something, and for the most part people are looking at the black community to go and say and do something, and it's like they've been saying and doing something. It's not like they've been sitting there and being like, oh, and now all of a sudden they're coming out. The problem is they've been consistently silenced, and or people who are in positions of power, CEOs, directors, leaders, whatever, they're not doing anything. They're just sitting there, and I've heard a lot of this where it's like the whole Blackout Tuesday movement, which was supposed to be the music label industry, and the point was not to self-promote, but to clear the way so that the Black Lives initiative and stuff could be pushed out. I think it worked and it didn't work in the sense that everyone did it just to kind of pat themselves on the back.
Mm-hmm.
It did work in the sense that now there's a lot more like eyes like, well, what is this? I think the thing that needs to continue is we need to continue putting stuff out and talking about it. But more importantly, like, we need to be changing things, right? Like, we need to make sure that various housing areas, like a black community gets the same kind of tax write-offs or same type of funding that a white community gets.
It's not even the same, right? You have to elevate it because of hundreds of years of discrimination, right? There's a 400-year head start for white people versus black people or people of color. And so the thing that's going to make people uncomfortable is you're going to have to elevate it now to try and get to that, to fix that discrepancy, right?
Yep.
You're going to have to pump money into the people that are undervalued. And that's where you get...
Well, there's actually a show that came out somewhat recently that did this. Watchmen?
Yep.
Watchmen, Tulsa, Oklahoma. They had the... I'm saying it right. Reparations, is it called?
Yeah.
Where, like, if you specifically to Black Wall Street and what happened back in the 1920s, if you had a family member in this hypothetical world of Watchmen, if you had a family member that was affected by it, the government owes you X amount of money, right? And that was to help you, the future generation, now get back up to speed, et cetera, et cetera.
Because you missed out on all that wealth
Correct.
that you would have had. But
Yeah.
It's been robbed. It's been straight up taken from you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And honestly, The Five Bloods, the main premise, or one of the main premises of the movie is about the gold, right, that they're looking for, and that's that's a huge topic that's hit upon, and that they even talk about philosophically within the movie, right? They're deciding what to do with the money, right? One of the characters believes that the money should go to straight up to Black Lives Matter, while some of the members are like, it needs to go to me. Like, I have suffered.
I've had a problem.
Right. It's and that's the issue, right? There's so many people. Like, it's a whole group of people that have been underrepresented, and it's just huge. And like you said, like, the leadership, and it's still today, June 15th.
Yes,
There's
15th.
people still at the top haven't done enough, and they're still not doing enough. They've put out, they might donate $500,000 and then they're moving on. Or, they might put out their little social media message and they move on.
Right.
Or they might dress themselves up in makeup and go to a protest, have a nice picture taken, and say, look, I was there for the stupid, one of my big hopes from this entire movement, because they have been called out, is that the influencer movement will die.
It won't.
I pray that in some way it changes or it just gets lost, because it is so stupid.
Or
It
how
needs to
about-
change for sure.
Or how about government leaders appropriating cultural,
The stupid kneeling with
with clothing and then kneeling and thinking that's gonna, being a huge, just continuing to perpetuate the same problems. Yep.
So we're gonna move on from there because there's a bunch of things in the Was It News area.
Well, real quick, did anyone dislike 846?
No.
Yeah.
No.
God,
It was very well done.
Yeah, it was great.
Real quick, last thing I'm gonna say on that. I mean, if anyone here ever has kids, I would say that is probably a good thing to show them, as a sort of like, well, they might not mention everything they put in the textbooks, right? You can't really trust textbooks. Hey, here's some media from the time, so you can get an idea or get a feel for what people were feeling. I think that's how good it was.
So in the Was It News area, I think the big one here is going to be the PlayStation 5 announcement. And what was it? An hour-long trailer mashup.
I just thought it was a modem with two pieces of paper taped onto it.
The internet did its usual thing where it just took something and turned it into a meme and just made fun of it. And to be fair, we did not get a lot of we got nothing in terms of actual information. We have hardware specs, which is great. We don't have a launch date.
Yeah.
We don't have a price.
Well, those are the two things people wanted. That's it, right?
That's it, yeah.
If they had just come out with a simple graphic on social that said, coming December 12th, starting at $4.99, it would have been a win. That's all they had to do. They didn't even to show what the fucking thing looked like. Literally, that's all they had to do. And that's the thing they didn't.
Here's my thing. And it goes, unfortunately, it goes back to what we were just talking about. Social media works in terms of like what's trending, everyone is talking about, right?
Yep.
The PlayStation announcement, the original announcement, was supposed to be June 5th. The country was kind of going chaotic with, unfortunately, some assholes rioting, not focusing on the Black Lives movement, and then also clearing the way and giving way to the Black Lives Matter movement and all of that fun stuff. Sony pushed the event to, June 11th?
Yeah,
So
6 days.
6 days later. And then instead of giving the information so we can kind of move on here, they put out an hour-long trailer, have us all talking about it, and then we have to now wait to get the information that we care about. So they're extending their marketing campaign. Yes, I get they're a business and all that fun stuff, but at the same time, if your goal is obviously to like make X, Y, and Z money, blah blah blah, now's not the time to be talking about like your new products and stuff. I think now is the time to be like, we're Sony. We know we had, because Sony, like many other corporations, has a huge fucking diversity problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
What they should have done is in a fucking hour-long discussion about how are we going to help promote the indie developers that are underrepresented. How are we actually going to fix our diversity problem, Sony? That would have been more fucking interesting than a goddamn hour-long trailer.
And let's talk about video games. If we're talking about video games, how are we going to fix the blatant racism that go on in online video games where people just drop the N-word without any repercussions? Like, why isn't Sony talking about that? Like, there's the technology out there to kind of control some of
people,
that type of stuff. Like, it's the same thing with some of the bigger MMOs, right? The bigger, massive multiplayer online games. It's the
fucking
same.
Call of Duty Warzone.
Yeah.
Their big thing their big thing to the Black Lives Matter was we put a patch in so that you can't say the N-word. Are you fucking what? What year is it? What time period? What the fuck? It's mind-bogglingly stupid.
Yeah.
The world moves very slowly.
It moves like
So
honey when I throw it at the wall
Also,
after I painted it.
Your
honey at the wall?
Your plan there for Sony was very specific. Are you putting out applications? Like, what? No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, big ass corporations! If you need to figure out what you should be doing, call me.
Yeah.
My number's nope. I'm not gonna.
Are you
that.
are you the hitch? You're the hitch of big companies and audience, or consumers.
It's
trying to marry them.
It's just frustrating because they are acting like it is a complicated thing to. It's not a complicated thing to fix. It's actually it ultimately means you're gonna make some people uncomfortable. But here's the thing: people go through change. They get over it.
Yeah.
Like, it ain't hard.
I mean,
Yeah.
NASCAR did the right thing and got rid of the Confederate flag, right?
Yes.
Last
they did.
week.
They got rid of the Confederate flag. They're flying the pride flag.
Yeah.
Like the NBA, the NFL, the MLB, the NHL, right? Those leagues were all considered way above, better, more inclusive than fucking NASCAR.
NASCAR
and then
racist, yeah.
NASCAR was you think NASCAR, you think fucking redneck, racist, asshole, piece of shit. And then they pulled this, and those other leagues are still going.
Yeah, they're still apologizing for their actions of 4 years ago, right? I mean, it's like you're right. Christ Almighty, who? If you put a bet down before anything happens that NASCAR is gonna look like the most progressive fucking company in the U.S. of A.
You would have made a lot of money.
Yeah, but it's insane. It's just so insane. That being said, it's not like they're not facing backlash. I mean, they're losing. They're losing a lot of their base. A lot of their base.
That's fine, but that's
no. I'm just saying, praise be unto NASCAR.
Yeah.
They got to follow through. And I think what's going to happen is you're going to see a lot of companies take these half measures, right? They're going to take half measures. They're going to be like, you know what? Goodell came out today and said someone should offer Kaepernick a contract. It's like they're moving in these little baby steps, right? What's going to happen is no one's going to offer Kaepernick a contract, and nothing changes. It's a half measure. NASCAR, facing the backlash in 1 year, allows, First Amendment, freedom of speech, Confederate flag, it's fine. We're not going to ban it anymore.
Okay, the NFL.
Half measures.
Well, I mean, not to get too sports here, but the NFL, someone needs to offer Cam Newton a contract. Because I mean, if you want to talk about
Amen,
if
brother.
If you want to talk about the blatant racism, right? Here's the former #1 overall pick in the league,
Former
MVP,
Super Bowl appearing.
Super Bowl appearance, but 15-1 in the regular season. Great statistics. Had one year where he was injured and is still, as of June 15th, 2020, unemployed.
Yeah, there's
Right?
no reason.
Say what you will, Kaepernick's been out of the league for 4 years. Okay, that is a valid argument, right? He hasn't played football in 4 years. Cam Newton played football last year, and he didn't play badly. He just got hurt.
Right. Boom. Roasted. So yeah. So to sum up what we're talking about, we have a huge fucking problem.
Yep.
And unfortunately, there's only one way to do it. The step is right. Here's the thing, right? If my milk trip has taught me anything, once you've taken the first step,
Oh god.
it's all downhill from there. So the fire has been lit. There's only one way to go. It might take a long time. It's going to be painful, right? Be very painful. Good Lord. More pain than anyone's ever experienced. But that's it. We're going all the way. Boom. I believe that.
Getting back into pop culture movies and TV shows here. The other big news of the week was Star Wars Squadrons was released. The new get out of my water, bro. Was the new first person plane space battle.
It's first person.
No,
It's first person.
No,
It's not third
it's gonna be both. You're gonna be able to switch.
It
back
said
and forth.
first person.
Yeah, it's gonna be both. Trust me.
It's also in VR.
Yeah, and that's great. You can play it in first person, but third person is also a very important thing to have in a game like this.
Anyway, it's coming out in October 2nd. I think the most surprising thing of the announcement, and just so everyone's aware, they dropped just a in-game footage trailer as opposed to like actual gameplay trailer. That's coming out on Thursday. Tune in to our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/wasitgood after, so around like, I don't know, 4 or 5 p.m. Pacific time. I'll be playing the far superior Star Wars Rogue Squadron on Twitch.
Wow.
Great
Wow,
video
wow,
game.
wow, 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 wow. Fuck me.
But I think the
Just
most
like the milk, right?
Just like the milk.
I think the most surprising thing was the price point, which was $39.99 US. And as we all know, being that we like video games and, instead of investing in stocks and bonds and stuff, we'd rather put them to video games. A new high-end video game when it comes out for the last
10 years?
10 years,
It
20
feels-
years
Feels like 10 years.
is
yeah.
is typically $59.99.
Yeah.
What do we think about that price difference?
So this is a new thing the video game industry is doing. It's become very popular. These $40 games to trick consumers into thinking, "Wow, I can buy a complete new game and it's $40." Here's the thing about these $40 games. Uncharted did it with Uncharted 4. They had another game come out called Uncharted Lost Legacy. Star Wars is now doing it with Squadrons. Spider-Man is doing it. The Miles Morales game that they showed during the PlayStation 5 trailer is also going to be a $40 game. The reason they're $40 games is the fine print. These games are built off pre-existing engines. So, for example, Miles Morales is built off of the Spider-Man game that came out last year, 2 years ago,
Mhm.
right? It's built off the same engine.
Yeah.
And it's a significantly smaller game. So if we just go back 5 years, that's what you used to call downloadable content, where you would pay the $15, $20 for like an extra campaign, right? An extra addition to the game if you really loved the game and you really wanted to continue. The video game industry has figured out, well, if we just add a couple little more things and we package it into a new game, you don't need the other game. It's like, oh, it's a new experience, but it's just your DLC. That's all it is.
Yeah.
And to me, when I saw Squadrons and when I heard about it, this is just like extended DLC for Battlefront. That's really it.
Wow.
This is EA.
Do you feel cheated right now?
No, I'm just not.
Well, we don't have enough information to say that we're cheated or not, because it could be that EA grew a conscience and we're like, hey, we really fucked you guys over with Battlefront, the new one, the first one, and the second one was kind of a joke, and here's our gift to you.
Yeah, I highly doubt that.
see, I wouldn't be. I think we do have to wait. I think we have to wait, because if it's a $40 game and I feel like I got my $40 worth, I'm okay with that. It's gonna be. You're right, though. If it's a $40 game and it feels like it should have been a $15 downloadable piece of content, you're absolutely right. I'll be pissed.
Right.
But it depends. We'll see. I guess at $40, you know,
This is my fear. This is my fear for the Squadrons game, from what I've seen. And obviously, we haven't seen gameplay footage. We don't know any of the specs or anything. It's gonna be like 3 maps. You're gonna be able to play 2 factions, and you will have fun for about an hour, and then you're just like,
I've heard that the game is multiplayer first, which to me is interesting because when I think of multiplayer first, I think of like these really big online competitive games that have huge followings.
sure.
So I wonder if like Squadrons is gonna be Star Wars' attempt to sort of have like their Fortnite or something.
Battlefront.
Is Battlefront super competitive?
Yes, it's big time. But it's like have you ever played like Call of Duty or in those types of games? Like you'll jump into
not
the map
much.
and then you'll be dead after 3 seconds, and
Yeah.
after like 5 times that happened, you're like, okay, I'm
That's
done.
not fun.
It's not fun.
Well,
It's boring.
because look, we're all no one here at this table is a hardcore gamer. We're all casual gamers, right? And
That is true.
the thing I see with Squadrons is it's the MMO. It's for hardcore gamers. For us, it's about single player. It's about local multiplayer. Granted, we're in the minority, right? A lot of MMOs and online play are hugely for the mass audience of video game enthusiasts. But to me, EA just has a bad. They have a
Model.
They just have a bad rap sheet when it comes to Star Wars games, right?
Yeah.
This will be their 4th Star Wars games, correct? It's Battlefront, Battlefront 2, Fallen Jedi, and now it's going to be Squadrons.
Yeah.
The
good
first
call.
2 Battlefronts, as Ravi mentioned earlier, are garbage, right? They're not good. I would rather go play the old PlayStation 2 Battlefront 1 and 2. Those games, which are 15 plus years old, are more fun than a game that came out much more recently.
Yeah.
They're less buggy. They're more enjoyable. They have a coherent single-player campaign. There's more feels like there's more customization. There's more randomness to it. There's just more fun. Fallen Jedi?
Fallen Order.
Yeah, Fallen Order, right? I didn't get the game. I've played a little bit of, I think, Ravi's copy, but I haven't had a desire to go buy it or borrow Ravi's copy and
Not at
start
all.
a campaign.
That's because you're not a Star Wars fan.
No, it's not because I'm not a Star Wars
You're not a
fan.
Star Wars fan.
You told me the story. That's all I need to know. The gameplay itself was just kind of
Generic, boring, stupid.
It
No,
was
it's actually pretty good.
No.
You haven't played.
I did. I played. I was also tripping that day. Damn.
Stop drinking so much milk, you
sorry,
fat
milk.
fuck.
No,
Milk is great.
but Fallen Order, right? It's fun, but would I pay $60 for it? No, honestly.
I didn't
You would
have
pay
to,
40.
so.
Well, but you would pay 40.
I wouldn't. I would wait
no.
until that game is like $10, honestly,
That's
because
fair.
like that to me, it's like it's fun, but there's not enough to that type of game for me to like. Oh, this is cool. The story is very interesting.
Let's back up here though. Before like Disney took on Star Wars, there's only been a handful of games where it's like that's worth getting. Like Shadows of the Empire, right? Rogue Squadron, Empire at War, the real-time strategy game,
Knights
right?
of the Old Republic.
Knights of the Old Republic. Those are games where
Even
it's like
KOTOR 2 is pretty good. I
yeah,
like it.
Clone
No,
Wars
Clone-
Commando.
Oh, I never played that.
Commando is kind of cool. It's a horror game almost with Star
well,
Wars.
it's definitely kind of horror-ish, but
That
like
sounds fun.
I don't.
What's that one with the clone of Vader? Force Unleashed.
Force Unleashed was good, but that's because it was a really compelling and interesting story.
Yeah.
But it's the same argument that you could make for like Fallen Order,
Right.
because it's basically
Same
basi-
gameplay.
Yeah,
of
very
course.
similar mechanics, which is fine, but overall good game. Jumping off. Oh, well, actually, one last piece of Star Wars news, which is interesting, kind of like a chuckle. It did start trending today for a little bit, but not for the reasons that people thought. Star Wars Celebration, which was supposed to take place in second to last week of August of this year, has finally been canceled. Just over 2 months from right now, the time of the recording of this podcast. And a lot of people are laughing that it took so long for them to cancel when, the big ones like Comic-Con, WonderCon, Stanley's, or the LA Comic-Con, they all canceled
Even
already.
bigger world events like the Olympics and
Yeah.
the NBA season, like those types of things were all pushed back before Star Wars Celebration was. They did announce, though, that the next celebration will be in 2022, also in Anaheim.
Which is interesting.
So, like, for us, if Anaheim's still a thing in 2022, and COVID isn't around, we could potentially go.
Oh, we'll have COVID
We'll see.
21
We'll see. We'll see.
or 25.
I don't
know.
believe it.
To wrap up on our Was It news, a bunch of movies have been pushed back. We'll start with the most interesting one, Tenet. The original premiere was supposed to be July 17th. This movie was interesting for two reasons. Not only as a Christopher Nolan fan, him finally kind of going, or not finally, but going back to kind of weird sci-fi with different elements, ranging from Inception to Interstellar and that type of stuff. He's doing a movie where people can kind of, essentially see deja vu or the future or the past, whatever you want to call it, and all that fun stuff. So there was that whole factor. But then what was also interesting is Hollywood was looking at that big blockbuster as kind of a pinpoint as to, are consumers going to go back to theaters? There was a lot of social posts out there where they basically, fans were saying to Christopher Nolan, I don't feel comfortable going to a movie theater. Can we push it back and find the studio? And Nolan's group and everything agreed, yeah, let's push it back to end of July 31st. I'm going to be honest, based on what I'm seeing with everything right now, the increase in spikes in cases day over day, where in some areas we're now getting more cases now than when we had lockdown.
Yep.
I would not be surprised if this is pushed again. We're already seeing other movies. For example, Wonder Woman, 1984. Original premiere date was December of 2019.
Jesus.
Then it was moved up to November 2019. Then the world kind of was going wacky, and then it was moved to June 2020. Now it's being moved to August 14th, and then finally it's now more recently being pushed to October 2nd. So that movie's all over the place. It may never come out, like kind of New Mutants.
Good Lord.
Other interesting ones. We've already passed this one, which was Godzilla vs. Kong. That was supposed to come out in May.
That's a shame.
May 22nd. That was originally pushed back to November 20th. And now more recently, they're pushing it to May 21 of 2021.
So it's a full year.
Full year.
To me, that makes the most sense.
Um,
Besides Matrix.
Other ones, No Time to Die, April of 2020, which was, kind of most people or most parts of the country were in the quarantine in March, and everyone's like, oh, yeah. A
April
month
will be
later,
fine.
we'll be fine. We'll
Yeah.
go. We'll be able to go see Bond in April. That's fine. Nope. That was kicked down to November. More recently, they've bumped up a little bit to like the middle of November 20th. The other one that I care about was Matrix 4. Not a massive shift. Just kidding. It's a huge shift. May 21st of 2021 is when it was supposed to come out. Granted, like we discovered that Matrix 4 was filming at the beginning of 2020, so it was never going to come out in 2020. But what's fascinating is they've pushed it 11 months to April 1st of 2022.
That's because of probably filming, right? It's still filming?
No, the filming was delayed.
Filming was delayed.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's
Oh,
why it's
yeah,
being
yeah.
pushed.
Yeah.
The filming is.
So what's fascinating to me about movies is, and I was going to put all the other like the Disney ones and everything, and maybe we can discuss this next week if we want, is you're gonna start getting a huge glut of blockbusters that are all gonna come out at the same time because there is no summer blockbuster this year, right? Like it's all
we're
yeah.
in the middle of June, and typically, like a year ago, what had already happened at this point? Endgame had happened, and we were in the slew of the blockbuster.
Yep.
Now we're just sitting here
Twiddling our thumbs.
twiddling our thumbs,
We're watching
expanding our horizons.
right. We're watching other
Milk.
movies like Da 5 Bloods on Netflix and such, which is great. But in terms of all of those blockbusters that are filmed and in the can, right, all have to come out one day, and you have to wonder too.
Who's gonna hack these studios first?
Well, that's a good point. But in terms of just when movies come out, right, there's a cultural relevance to them. How many of these movies, because you have to wait a year plus, will potentially need reshoots just because they're not culturally relevant? You know what I mean?
I feel
because
like
they age.
I feel like Wonder Woman 1984 would be okay.
It's a period piece.
Tenet might be a little. No Time to Die probably will have to have something. Godzilla vs. Kong potentially as well. Yeah, you could potentially see other reshoots and stuff like that. But something else I think that kind of helps with these things is you could argue that they are timely,
Right.
right? Unlike something like a TV series like Westworld, where we waited so long, we
Yeah.
had to like remember all this other stuff.
Mhm.
You may run into something similar with like Wonder Woman, because by the time it comes out in October 2nd of 2020, we're talking 3 years,
I think 3 years.
almost over 3 years since the original standalone Wonder Woman film came
It's
out.
like May of 2017.
I don't know.
Something
I think
Probably.
so.
Yeah.
I mean, another thing, we mentioned this last week after our podcast taping during the Twitch stream at the very end for our audio listeners out there. But movie theaters are starting to open back up. I believe AMC officially opened up this weekend.
Has anyone looked at like the seating charts?
I haven't looked at the seating charts yet. I know they're doing like 25% capacity. You have to wear your masks the full time. But it's going
Fuck that! I'm not watching a movie.
But it's fascinating. Well, it's fascinating to see like what is going to happen with those. And we talked about this 3 weeks ago, but you're seeing a rise in drive-in theaters, and potentially, is there a market for some of these blockbusters to still come out this year in a drive-in capacity? Now, a movie like Tenet is not a good drive-in movie, right? It has specific sound design, it has specific visual design that you're just not going to get in that. But for something like one movie that did come out, on VOD and in the drive-in was like Trolls World Tour, right?
I knew you were gonna say that.
Well, it's a family movie, right? You can you can load the family up into a car and watch it. You don't need a great screen. You don't need a great sound system for it. It's just ways that the theaters need to potentially avoid the super glut you're going to get in 2021 and 2022 of like, these movies are going to lose money, right? If
Yeah.
you have, let's say,
Absolutely.
I'm making this up. I don't know how many typical blockbusters there are. Like, let's say a typical year has 15 summer blockbusters. You're looking at like 40 in one. You know what I mean? Like, and so think about that, right? Like, just a regular family of four. It's like, all right, I can only go to like 2 or 3 of these, right? Because it's like almost $100 for like 4 IMAX tickets and popcorn and stuff. And it's like, well, we're gonna have to drop X, Y, and Z, and like some of these movies,
you're gonna miss movies, and then the other one that
they're gonna lose tons of money.
I've also wondered is the AMC like pass, is that done? Are they gonna bring that back, because they've not made money since February of this year,
Right.
Like they are in the negative pretty hardcore.
Well, one question I have is, like, we're all A-list members for AMC, which is the subscription service. But now that they're opening back up, are they going to charge us, right? And if so, like, we will probably cancel, because I know, like, I don't feel comfortable going to a movie theater. But then when I go back, is it going to be exponentially higher?
For sure,
Or am
it
I
will
going to
be.
have to pay another startup fee for
If
it?
if I had to guess, a lot of these companies will like look to like, the members who were loyal to the company when it wasn't the good times.
Right.
They'll probably reward them and let them keep X amount. They'll be able to keep that like grandfathered in pricing or whatever for
Unless you
however long.
cancel.
Unless you cancel.
Right.
But the other thing is like if Tenet came out July 17th, or if Tenet comes out July 13th or 31st, and the theater is 25% capacity, you're sitting far apart from people, you have to wear a mask the whole time, cases are rising, I'm not spending money to go see it.
I'm not. I probably won't go.
That
either, to
sounds
be
like a
honest.
terrible movie experience. I'll wait until there's a vaccine, cases are down, and things are normal. It's a movie. Honestly, it can wait.
Yeah. There's no need to risk it, honestly.
No.
As much as like I want to see Tenet, I'm not going to go risk my life to go see it either. And I do want to see it on the proper. I want to see the proper experience. I want to see it on IMAX, right? I want to see it with the advanced sound and everything. I also want to see it when I feel safe and I don't need to wear a mask, because
How do you think that's going to play out, though, from like a critic standpoint, right? Like, let's say you're a big time New York Times critic, and you're that critic, and you said that stuff. I don't feel comfortable going to see it,
Right.
so you don't go and see it. But the film is designed for that movie going experience.
Right.
But then you get the movie because you're a critic and you watch it on your small screen. Your view of that movie is going to be different
Yeah.
than if you see it in a theater.
Yeah.
Not only that, but that could also affect your chances of Oscars and stuff like that, because it goes for the fucking, nose up the butt Academy fuck faces.
Yeah.
If they, for whatever reason, hopefully feel unsafe to go see a film, but they go and watch it at home, same thing could happen where it's like it's not going to be a good comparison either.
Right.
So I'm very curious to see like
I think
the
that,
Academy
I
2021.
I think that's why you got to push. There's some movies like Tenet you just have to push. I think just trying to stick to like, yep, it's going to come out in July, and you go see it if you want to. Like, I think that's a bad idea. Like, I think the movie will lose money and it won't do as well. And I think people are going to have a negative association with it because it's like, well, you weren't willing to kind of wait for the right time, and it's like, I'm not going to go support this. Because going to a movie theater and wearing a mask is not the optimal movie experience, right? Even if you're by yourself, I would argue like that's not you're going to a theater and having to think about how far I am from people and if I'm going to get sick or not. You are not engrossed in that movie theater experience.
Yeah. Well, that's going to do it for us here today on Was It Good?
Oh wait, we missed two things.
What?
SpongeBob.
Oh yeah, what is this?
Oh,
SpongeBob
that's right.
nonsense?
Before we wrap here, Nickelodeon
Yes.
this past weekend went to the socials to announce that SpongeBob was a member, not a supporter, member of the I'm gonna mess this up, so please don't yell at me.
I can
But
correct you.
go ahead, you say it.
So SpongeBob is officially a member of the LGBTQ plus community. This isn't actually news though, because they actually released years ago that SpongeBob. I think the creator said this when it came out back in 1999. They're like, is SpongeBob ever going to have a romantic interest? And Steven Hillenburg, who passed away, I think, last year, 2 years ago, said, no, SpongeBob is a sponge, and sponges are asexual. So SpongeBob, our character, is asexual. Asexuality being part of the LGBTQ plus community.
Wow, brilliant.
So
And people are freaking out, obviously.
Oh,
they're
why?
They're like, what? They're like, oh my God, that's propaganda. And credit to Nickelodeon, right? Nickelodeon, when George Floyd's murder happened, actually aired 8 minutes and 46 seconds of just of a black screen, right? And it made a lot of conservative parents unhappy
because
now
what
I have
happened
to explain this
exactly,
to my kids.
exactly.
Get the
And it's
fuck
like,
out
yeah,
of here.
you do need to explain this to your kids. You do
Yeah.
need to educate.
You're
your
the
kids.
fucking problem.
And so I'm glad they did that. The last thing we want to mention, Krishna and I actually have a bet that we want to talk about.
Yes. Juna, go ahead.
Krishna is growing his beard.
Oh God.
He has decided that he's going to grow his beard to his chest. He's going to grow it out to here.
He's done in 4 weeks.
That is the bet.
So Krishna actually owes me $100
From
already.
a previous bet.
From a previous bet, and now we're making it double or nothing. If he cuts it, if he just shaves it off at any point before it gets there, he will now owe me $200.
Wait, let's back up a second. When you say shave, like, what if he trims it?
I could trim it, but as long as I am not stopping the growth of at least some to get to my chest.
So what happens if that literally to get to your chest takes 10 years?
It would take at least a year, probably. Because your beard hair grows at about a rate
Christian,
of half an inch a month.
you want a girlfriend?
Yeah.
This is not going to help you.
Well, we'll
I'm
see.
putting that out there right now.
Some
so therefore,
people.
you took this bet already, right?
I already took the bet.
Start saving some money because you owe Arjun $200. Like you're fucked.
Well,
That was the dumbest. That's a dumber bet than saying that
no.
Mark Hamill was going to be Oscar nominated for The Last Jedi.
No, because I have
That was a
control
bad
over
bet.
my bet. Your bet's just dumb as fuck.
You will lose this bet.
So-
yeah, I
I will
might.
bet
I
that
might.
Christian loses
We'll
this bet.
do a side.
The side bet. You said 4 weeks. I give up.
Yeah, we'll do a side.
I would take that bet.
We'll
I'm
do
going to
a
go over
side-
that. That's
we'll
easy.
do a side
I've-
over under.
I've grown this thing for 4 months before.
Christian, we're about to hit a heat wave.
So
I did mention that to him. I'm like, we're about to hit the
I'm gonna live
summer.
inside. I'm gonna live inside and keep the air on 65 degrees. It's gonna cost everyone some money, but I'll be fine.
So Christian has just committed that he will pay the electric bill.
No.
That's what it sounds like.
Niet.
Anyway, that's going to do it for us here at Was It Good. You can find us on Twitter at Was It Good, on Instagram at Was It Good BTM, on Twitch, twitch.tv/wasitgood. We do the podcast live on Twitch every Monday evening, so make sure you follow along on Twitch, turn on your notifications. That's all I have to say about you subscribing, liking, commenting. Smash that like button.
Etc. Etc. Remember the guy, the Beast from those M Night Shyamalan movies.
And Arjuna, correct me if I'm wrong. We're still going to keep the link that we have for what you can do for Black Lives Matter.
Yep.
Where you can donate, all that fun stuff. It will be in the descriptions wherever you find this podcast or VOD clips. So appreciate that.
Boom.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
All right, I stopped recording. If you want to stop the cameras.
Goodbye.
I'm going to go off of YouTube and Facebook. Goodbye, YouTube, Facebook.
Goodbye.